There is a world of difference between gambling, speculation, and investing. In the news this week, Football Index has closed its platform after having its license suspended by the Gambling Commission. This should serve as a wake-up call that we have got a serious problem here in the UK when it comes to a dire lack of understanding about what investing really is. In this video, I'm talking about the failure of Football Index as some soccer fans see their life savings go up in smoke, and why you need to know the difference between gambling and investing. Football Index, a self-styled stock market of football, a virtual stock exchange which claims to pay out dividends on the performance of football players. It's had its Gambling Commission's operating license suspended, and it suspended all trading activities on its platform. The Gambling Commission said in a statement following an ongoing Section 116 review into the operator, as we had concerns, activities may have been carried out in purported reliance on the license, but not in accordance with a condition of the license, and that Football Index may not be suitable to carry on with licensed activities. The statement added, "We have made clear to the operator that as the investigation progresses, we expect it to focus on treating consumers fairly and keeping them fully informed of any developments which impact them." So this is the Gambling Commission suspending the license, the operating license for Football Index, rather than revoking it entirely. But it's very hard, as I record this video, to see any way back for Football Index. They've had a dreadful few months, seeing the prices attached to various players on this virtual stock market absolutely collapse. But there's a really important lesson from all of this. We have to recognise that there is a significant difference between gambling or speculating and investing. I want to take a look at some of the issues with Football Index in this video and help clarify those key differences. Before recording this video, I found a page on the Football Index website, a page which is still live. Most of the pages say the platform is suspended until further notice, but you're still able to access the Football Index game rules. And please keep in mind, this is a game. This is gambling. This is not investing. It's nothing to do with investing. And it actually makes me quite angry that as I read through these game rules, there is frequent reference to investing words, including the word dividends. Dividends are an income paid to investors who own a share in a company. Dividends have nothing to do with gambling, and Football Index should never have used the term dividends. I think that term is misleading. Football Index also uses the term shares, and the whole purpose of this game was to buy shares in different players, with up to 3,000 football players available on the Football Index platform, but with a focus on the top 200 players. But again, you're not buying a share in a footballer. You are gambling on the performance of each footballer, things like their goal record or their media coverage. All throughout these game rules from Football Index, there is reference to investing terms. They talk about a portfolio, they talk about offer prices, they talk about trading. Once again, this was not an investment platform. This was not a stock market. This was a gambling game. And I know it's easy to say all of this in hindsight. Now the thing appears to have collapsed. But what on earth was the regulator playing at? In this case, the Gambling Commission. Where were they in this? I would also say, why were the Financial Conduct Authority or the Financial Services Regulator in Jersey, why were they not getting stuck in? As there were so many misleading and confusing statements made in the promotion of this Football Index gambling game. There's been references made in the past few days to this potentially having some of the attributes of a Ponzi scheme. And what Ponzi scheme effectively means is that payouts to those taking part are funded from new people. So you're not getting money from any sort of investment return. You're simply taking money off the people who come in later, who put fresh money onto the platform. And I think that's a key distinction between gambling and investment. There was no investment return from Football Index because there was no investment asset. There was no income being generated from any asset. Investment, in my mind at least, is an income producing asset. And it's something tangible, something that has value, that produces an income, either in the form of a dividend, so a share of income returned to investors in a company, or an interest on cash savings deposit, or a rental yield on residential or commercial property, or even a coupon paid on a fixed income security, but some form of income production. Without that income generating ability, something isn't really an investment. It's something else. In this case, it was gambling or speculation that someone else would pay you more than you had paid for a particular share in a footballer. But this Football Index scheme was so widely promoted. Now, I'm not big in the world of football. I don't follow a particular team. My childhood team was Bristol Rovers because of a family family relationship. One of the famous players there in the 1950s was my granddad's cousin. I was taken to quite a few of those games growing up with family in Bristol. I was a mascot actually when I was 10 years old, but I'm not a passionate football fan. I don't spend time at the weekends watching matches or travelling to games. I couldn't name, I suspect, more than 1 or 2 Premier League players. I'm just not interested in this stuff. But for those who are fanatical about football, I can see that the way in which Football Index was marketed, it was promoted, I can see why that would pull people in. They were the shirt sponsors for QPR, for Queen's Park Rangers, and QPR CEO Lee Hughes said, "As a football club, we entered into a 1-year agreement with Football Index in good faith. In light of recent events, the front property of QPR's home and away strips will no longer sport the Football Index logo." They were also shirt sponsors for Nottingham Forest. Again, that would have no doubt influenced decisions made by some Notts Forest fans to stake money on this gambling platform. If something is gambling, if something is a game, you need to strictly limit your financial exposure to it. Never ever put more money onto a gambling platform than you can afford to lose in its entirety. Gambling has a win-lose outcome, more often lose than win. Investing, on the other hand, has a chance of losing money, but more often with genuine investments, you make money rather than lose money over the long term at least. Earlier this week, I was a panellist on the BBC Radio 4 programme Money Box Live, talking about the dramatic rise in popularity of trading apps and social media investing. The more I look into this subject, and I've been looking at it very closely recently, the more I see people are struggling to differentiate between speculating or gambling and investing, and it is such an important differentiation. The sort of activity that we're seeing people carrying out on trading platforms, on trading apps, is, for the most part, speculation. They're using investments to gamble about future price movements. So underlying instruments may well be investments, at least in some cases, but the way they're being treated is more akin to gambling, where there is a win-lose outcome. More often than not, that's going to be a lose outcome. As soon as you start using things like contracts for difference, CFDs, to speculate on the price movement of company shares or other investment assets, you move from investing into gambling territory. We know this because we know that around 3/4 of retail investors, amateur investors, who use CFDs on trading platforms, we know they lose money over a 12-month period. All UK regulated trading platforms have to disclose the average losses of their investors. It's plastered right across the top of their websites, and it's usually in that 3/4, 75% range. Yet more and more people are dipping their toe into this form of gambling, despite the incredibly high probability of losing money. I've done some gambling before. There's nothing wrong with gambling. It's fun, it's a game. It stops being fun, it stops being a game when you believe that you're investing money. And Football Index have to carry a huge amount of responsibility here, along with the Gambling Commission, and as I mentioned a moment ago, I think the Financial Conduct Authority too, for allowing use of language like virtual stock market, dividends, portfolio, buy price or bid, or even shares. Those are investing terms. They should not have been used to promote a gambling platform. I genuinely feel for anyone who has lost or is about to lose a massive amount of money because of this collapse of Football Index. Please don't bury your head in the sand if you fall into that camp. I'm very sorry about it. If you started putting money onto the Football Index platform in the belief that you were investing in some of your favourite players, I can see why a lot of people made that mistake. You're not alone in that. Just looking at the language being used on their website, it makes it very clear that this looked like some sort of investment platform when it was not. We know that the UK has a gambling problem, and again, gambling itself is not a problem. Nearly half of the population do some form of gambling each month. Most of those would have been buying a National Lottery ticket or Euro Millions ticket. A few are placing some bets on the FA Cup or the Grand National or the weekend football matches, but a small number, a small proportion of those gamblers become problem gamblers, and then gambling has a negative impact on their professional and personal lives. One estimate from the NHS suggests there are around 280,000 problem gamblers in the UK, but some other studies suggest that number could be even higher. If you have a problem with gambling, and by problem I don't necessarily mean addiction, but I mean that gambling has a negative impact on your life, leading to personal problems, problems at work, financial distress, even criminal behaviour. If you recognise that problem, then acknowledging the problem is a first step towards recovery from that issue. If you're in denial that you're a problem gambler, it's very hard indeed to get help. But if you find yourself having to stake ever-growing amounts of money to get the same buzz, the same excitement from your gambling activity, you might well be a problem gambler. If you find yourself becoming or feeling restless or irritable when you try and stop or cut back on the amount of gambling you're doing, then you might be a problem gambler. And if you've tried and failed repeatedly in the past to stop gambling, again, you might be a problem gambler. Do seek help. There are places you can go to get help on this. Speak to friends and family about it, get their support, get their acknowledgement that you need help. But there's also Gamblers Anonymous support groups that you can join that will give you a hand to kick this gambling problem. Look, fundamentally, I just wanted to come onto this video and point out the difference between gambling, speculation, and investing. I've been thinking a lot about it this week with the collapse of Football Index, with my appearance on Moneybox Live talking about trading apps. We need to get this straight in our heads, that there is a difference between gambling or speculation and investing, and that the risk of complete loss associated with gambling and speculation is very real. It is a significant risk. We're all grown-ups. We can all make our own choices with our money, and those choices might be to stake them on a gambling platform like Football Index. Those choices might be to risk our money, but please don't go doing that unless you have your eyes wide open, because things can and often do go very wrong when you're gambling or speculating with money. The best approach to investing is, as I often say in these videos, a boring approach. And I've said it time and time again on these videos that if investing is your hobby, then you need a new hobby. And that definitely counts for gambling or speculation too. Successful investors invest for the long term. They make a very limited number of decisions and trades, and then they go off and they do something more interesting, more productive with their lives. And I say that as a professional investor who is ultimately responsible for looking after nearly £500 million worth of our client assets and making investment decisions in respect of those assets. I don't sit in front of screens all day looking at candlesticks and charts and whether there's breakout patterns. That's not what professional investors do. We need to get this difference straight. Do let me know in the comments if you had money on Football Index and what you make of the suspension of their license. Thank you for watching this video. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford, and remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.